First things first, let me know y'all thoughts on today's new episode down below. What y'all think? Did y'all like the episode? Look, wait a minute. Hold on, let me do this first. Then we're going to talk about it. Okay, y'all. So, I said, now, Nina, I'm not entirely sure, but I think your daughter just threatened you. I think Willow just threatened her. She basically told her that her lies and secret cost her everything or whatever. Maybe somebody should do that to her. And I was like, I think she just threatened you, girl. Then Nina looked worried. I was like, I think she got it kind of confused, though. Actually, Drew's lies cost her everything. But I was so glad that Nina finally told her about herself. I said, about doggone time. We've been waiting on this. Hold on. But yeah, I was like, we've been waiting on this for such a long time, and it's about doggone time. It was good, but I don't think it's as good as it could have been. But yeah, I was like, it's about time. Somebody has said that Nina Spoke been told Willow about herself on today's new episode, and she did. She definitely did. She told her she ain't thinking for herself. She ain't controlling her own life and stuff like that. She told her that she threw her life away for a terrible man, and she still blaming everybody else. How everybody tried to warn her, but she over here studying, speaking of his good graces. She was like, he could have what she said, a bunch of heads in the closet or something she said, and you would still say he's a good man or whatever. I said, true that. I said, come on, Nina. I said, you're doing good, Nina. I said, give it to her a little bit more, though. I said, give it to her a little bit more. And she was acknowledging how she only withdrew or being back involved with him because, she's trying to get her kids back. But she went back to square one where she over here making excuses for him. But yeah, like, way to go, Nina. About doggone time. But you better watch your back because she crazy. I said, well, she crazy too, so look, 10 for that. I said, well, she's crazy too. I haven't really seen Nina's crazy in a long time. But yeah, like, where do we start? So, okay. At the beginning of the episode, they started with Gio and Emma. They still searching for Albert. They couldn't find him or whatever. But then they got a call saying they had information about Albert. But they just found his collar. But Cody see Albert. He's there. But I'm wondering, like, how did he get there? Like, did they do something to him? Was they trying to test on him like they was trying to test on Jocelyn and Vaughn? Like, what happened? Because he was gone for a while now. That's why I thought this was headed. I thought they was trying to do the whole situation where Albert was being tested on. Now, we don't know until, they actually show Outback and, Eminem and all the other stuff, because I was assuming they was testing on Outback. But yeah, that's how that happened with them. Gio and Emma was talking about going to Sunny or the Quartermains and asking for reward money to put it up on the poster or whatever so that they can get Outback back. But then he didn't want to go to the Quartermains because he still feels some type of way. But he's willing to go to Sunny, though. And I think, what else? They looked like they was about to kiss, but they did not. They didn't kiss. And I think they decided to go look for Outback. But like I said, Cody ends up seeing Outback. I think he stole Cody's sandwich. So that's all that happened right there. Let me scratch that off. I wrote down Emma and Elizabeth. I mean Molly. Let me write that down. Molly she just tell everything. She just over here telling Elizabeth, Christina, what's the cost of Ava and Rick relationship and stuff like that. I said, there she go. Elizabeth already said if Christina did something else that she would turn her in and everything. And she over here snitching. But yeah, they were just talking about Rick, and Molly was asking Elizabeth if she's heard from Rick and stuff like that. And she was just talking about how he had emailed her, and she was like, that's not really something he would do, and they both agreed. They was talking about Ava and Rick breaking up. What else did they talk about? She was saying how she thinks that Elizabeth is good for her dad, but she was like, they better off as friends. And Molly was like, even though she love her daddy, but she know what he will and won't do. And Elizabeth still making excuses for him. Still in denial, just like Willow over here. But then she was like, he's representing Willow, for pro bono or whatever. And I said, she must ain't read the email yet, or Willow ain't came to her yet. Because I think that Ava said something about once Willow goes to Elizabeth and tells the truth or whatever, she gonna feel some type of way. But I still feel like he either gonna break out or somebody gonna come down there some type of way. This man gonna get out. But what else? Is that all that Ava and them talked about? I mean, not Ava. Molly asked Elizabeth if she's heard from Rick. They was talking about Ava and Rick breaking up. Molly told Elizabeth that Ava and Rick over because of Christina and told about paying Cody to sleep with Ava and everything. What else? Let me see. Christina and Ava. So Christina, I said now, okay now. I said now y'all gonna get caught slipping because y'all a little too friendly now. She over here coming over to her house and stuff. I said now people gonna be suspicious. I said they was already suspicious, but they definitely gonna be suspicious now. Look, she over here at her house. They were just talking about Rick and whether or not Elizabeth and Willow and them heard from him and stuff like that, and how Ava had made sure to include Elizabeth in the not Elizabeth include Willow or whatever in the email so she could run to Elizabeth and tell. So Christina was like, "Isn't she your friend?" And she was like, "Yeah, but basically it benefits me, so I don't care nothing about no friendship. I don't care nothing about no friendship." And then what else? She said her and Nina been through worse, so she's sure that they can overcome that. I said, well, technically y'all have, cause then she cut her baby out her stomach or something. Then she could take her baby, if I'm not mistaken. I think she did take her baby. But yeah, but I don't know at this point, cause Nina was telling Willow about herself on today's episode, and I actually liked that scene. I definitely did. Hold on, I need to go back from the beginning. We already talked about Emma and Gio looking for Outback. Molly asking Elizabeth if she's heard from Rick. Ava don't think Elizabeth would want anything to do with Rick after she talks to Willow. Willow said there's an issue with her lawyer. That's when she ends up telling Nina about Rick leaving town, and she found out that Nina been paying Rick. And she tried to explain to her that he's expensive and she needed the best and she wanted her kids back. So she started talking crazy to Nina. I was like, come on, Nina. I said, it's about that time, Nina. It's about that time. Everybody been telling you how you been handling her with kid gloves or whatever. And I said, it's about that time to let her know. It's about time to let her know. So she kept on going on and on about she didn't want anything to do with her, and she went behind her back, and Nina admitted to hiring Rick or whatever, and she was like, that's the first time you haven't lied. And I forgot what it was that led Nina to finally tell her about herself. But yeah, Lulu tells Brooklyn Britt back. Britt tells Jason to stay away from her. I said, okay, Britt. I said, not too much on Jason now, Britt. I said, it's about that time. I feel like she's gonna end up supporting Jason when he discovers Monica or whatever, because they saying tomorrow's the episode, y'all. So go on, get ready. Go on, get ready, y'all. I don't know when they're gonna do the official tribute, but they saying tomorrow is the day that Jason's supposed to discover that she had passed away. He's supposed to make that call saying that he needs to report a death or whatever. I feel like Tracy finna have a fit. But listen, excuse me, hold on. What else? Let me see. I already said Britt tells Jason to stay away from her. James misses Maxie. He was blaming himself for her being, in a coma and, having a heart attack and everything. Cody and Felicia end up telling him it's not his fault. Does anybody know when Maxie's supposed to come back? And if the lady that normally plays her is going to be playing her or the other lady? What else? Let's see. Let's see. Lulu tells Brooklyn she was right about telling Rocco the truth. Britt said that Rocco a stupid. Britt said Rocco a stupid name. He'll always be mean to her. I like that Jason allowed her to open up, but at the same time, I don't know if that's gonna backfire or not. But yeah, they were just talking about Rocco, and he was trying to tell her who Rocco is, and she was like, so he's nothing like me. He doesn't even have my DNA. So there goes that theory. Y'all know how we were saying, like, maybe he was actually gonna be Britt's. She just said that they don't share the same DNA. I mean, she could have just been saying that, but yeah, I don't know if they actually gonna do that storyline, y'all, but we'll see. What else? Let's see. I already said Willow knew that Nina hired Rick. She started talking crazy to her mama about that. Molly told Elizabeth that Ava and Rick over because of Christina. Lucas asked what's going on with Ava and Christina because he walked in and they was talking and stuff like that. But Christina just said that they was talking about Avery and stuff like that. Gio and Emma end up talking about asking Sonny for reward money. Nina was still trying to talk some sense into Willow, but she's senseless. At this point, just give up. Because ain't no way. She started talking. I was like, Willow, I don't know what to say about her. They're going to have to give her some help or something. But I definitely said Nina going to have to watch her back. I was like, Nina, I think she just threatened you, Nina. I was like, I'm not sure. But that's the way I took it. I said, Nina, I think she just threatened you. I don't think she just threatened you. You better watch her back because she already running around taking babies and stuff. Taking babies and possibly shooting people. We don't know yet. But what else? Let's see. I think she's supposed to be talking to Tracy on tomorrow's episode. And I was like, at this point, they're going to have to hide the kids. Hide everybody. Let me see. What else? Nina told Willow that she's not in control of her life. Wake up. And that's when she started. Because she was saying how Nina tries to control her life. And she was like, the only person that's trying to control your life is Drew. And that's when she started talking about Drew and stuff like that. And Willow just still over here playing victim and making excuses for Drew. And she was like, you still making excuses for him. And she started telling her about herself. I said, we've been waiting on this. I said, about time, Nina. I said, about doggone time you tell her about herself. The good it did, though, because she still walked out. I was like, look, I was waiting for somebody to slap somebody or something, the way she got up in her face or whatever. But what else? Let's see. Elizabeth said her and Rick better off as friends. Lucas talks to Ava about Brad and Britt about, he was questioning whether or not Brad was using his grief to get him back and talking about whether or not he helped Britt fake her death. And what else? Let me see. I said, okay. They said, I think Ava was saying basically Brad could come back or something like that. And I was like, well, he gonna have to need somebody once he realizes who Marco really is. Well, I said that wrong. I think you're gonna have to need somebody. Well, I mean, y'all know how they do. One go away, next thing you know, they bringing somebody back. What else? Let's see. Christina ends up stopping by to see Cody, and she was just asking Cody where things stand with Molly, and he was just saying there's nothing going on. She basically said not to contact him again unless it was an emergency or something like that. So she's still crying. I said, you ain't did enough. I said, you don't did enough. I said, Molly and Cody need to figure this out by themselves. I said, you don't did enough. Go away. What else? I already said Nina started telling Willow off. I said, okay, Nina, tell her. She threw her life away for a terrible man. Now she blaming everybody else except herself. Willow said that Nina stood by and watched her do it. That's when she got in her face. That's when she got in Nina's face. I said, uh-oh, now. I wasn't expecting this. I said, hold on. Nina cussing Willow out was the highlight of the episode. Everything Nina said to Willow is true. That's exactly why I can't wait until Michael gets the proof she's the baby stalker. Exactly. We've been waiting on that for a long time. It's like, because she been running around making excuses. It's Drew's fault, Drew this and Drew that. And she's still not getting it. After the whole conversation, to me, I feel like she threatened Nina. I feel like she threatened her, but I'm wondering, like, what is she going to do to take away from her? But yeah, what else? Let's see. Willow said Nina stood by and watched her do it. They end up showing Outback, so I don't know if they did something to him, because remember, they was trying to test on Vaughn and, what's her name, Jocelyn or whatever, so they could have just tested on Outback, but I don't know, y'all. That's what I got from it. When he went missing, I was like, oh, they finna test on Outback. But I could be wrong. We'll see down the line, I'm assuming. What else? Let me see. I said, there go Outback. I said, woo, I thought he was out of there. I said, woo, I thought he was out of there. Hold on. What else? Let's see. Jason told Britt how he's going to find her a place to stay, because she was talking about staying with Brad, and he was like, Brad been gone. Willow said that Nina's secrets and lies have taken everything from her. Maybe someone should do that to her, and that's when I said, she threatened you, girl. I said, I'm not entirely sure, but I think she just threatened you, Nina. And I think that was the last thing. Was that the last thing? I think so. I was waiting on the last thing to be about Monica. I thought that Jason was going to take Britt back to the Quartermains or whatever, and he was going to go check on her, and that's when it was going to happen. But they saying on tomorrow's episode, y'all. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Let me know your thoughts on this episode down below. Stay tuned for the next review. Until next time, deuces. Have a great rest of the day.